I commit. I won't quit.
I'm sure most people that have been at the starting line of the Leadville 100 in year 2021 have probably been just like me. And they spent the last 2 years training and trying to get to this starting line. And given the support of all the people around them, just trying to get to that starting line so they can run the Leadville 100. And I finally got there. Nobody tells you that the hardest thing about running 100 miles is running 2,000 miles trying to get ready for it. So here's my story. Saddle up, and welcome to the Leadville 100 2021.
The story all started was grew up going to Leadville with my family to go skiing. I was very familiar with the place. My wife is from Groover, Texas. Marilee Maupin, which is one of the co-founders of the race, is from Groover, Texas. So knew a little bit about her story, had spoken with members of her family, and knew about the Leadville 100. So in 2019, I decided that I'd like to participate in the race, but I wanted to know more about it. So I went up there and volunteered. So did that, went up there, had a great experience, saw David Goggins finish the race, saw lots of inspirational stories along the way, spent a lot of time with Marilee as she put medals around everyone's neck that finished, and really was inspired by that whole experience. Came home, started training, entered the lottery for the race, was accepted in the lottery, mostly because if you volunteer, you definitely get a pretty good shot of getting in. Started training as much as I could, running, at least an hour a day during the week, and then on the weekends I'd have one really long run, and just started building it up from there. And then, just like anybody else, and going into 2020, COVID happened. So didn't know what to do. So I thought, well, it's going to take me a whole nother year as they canceled the race. So I thought, I need to find out what I can do as far as distance. So I ran a 72-mile run in 24 hours. I ran a 3-mile loop every hour for 24 hours to raise awareness of small businesses in my hometown, Amarillo, Texas, and used it to bring awareness to these businesses, to encourage people to spend their dollars in these businesses and try to help support. And that was a great test for me also physically, because I got to find out if I could run 72 miles in one day. Also, my family got to participate, which helped them learn about what it was like to crew someone that's doing one of these long endurance events. So after that, continued to run around work and family. I got a lot of training in. And so spent quite a bit of time in 2020 just building up miles. Then when it got to the end of 2020, it started 2021, I entered the Leadville 100 camp, which takes you across the course over 3 days. And I really got to see what the course is like. It scared me to death, because I had run a lot and I was hurting. So right before I went and did that, I did a 72-mile run by myself across the Caprock Canyon Trailway. Most of that was so that I could try to set a fastest known time, and I wanted to see if I could do 64 miles. And got it done, 64 miles in 16 hours. And then it was time to get to Leadville. The race was October 21st. Left out 2 days before, heading to Colorado to get my mind wrapped around this race as the family came up and met. The day before I left, the person that was supposed to help me pace for 26 of the last 38 miles was a guy named Joe Barton. He's a very accomplished runner, and he hurt his knee. So he calls me and it's like, man, there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to be able to help you at the Leadville 100. So I was in a little bit of a bind.
2 days before I was supposed to go to Leadville and cruise Scotty. So he got me running. I wasn't a runner, not a marathoner. So my longest run before that point was only 7 miles. And it was on the street. So hadn't run trails, hadn't run on a mountain, hadn't run in the middle of the night, hadn't run at 12,000 foot altitude. So I was thinking, crap, like I got to do this. His pacer had gotten hurt, and he asked me to do it, and I had to do it. He's one of my best friends. He would do it for me. And so I was thinking, shit, I got to do this.
More than getting my ticket to Western States, it was the beginning of a new adventure for me. And
Not everybody's pacer has a beer in a cigar the night before.
So Chris is going to pace Dad, but there was 13 miles left at the end of the race, and I decided that I was going to pace Dad and finish the race off.
3 in the morning, just set off the smoke alarm. Hell of a start to the day. Twice.
O'er the land of the free.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Yeah, don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring.
So we had a little meeting that morning as a family, and we're putting together instructions for the race. And the one thing that I said is, no matter what happens, no matter how bad I feel, or how bad I look, or how bad it gets, or how bad I'm limping, we don't quit. We don't talk about quitting. We don't even mention the idea of not finishing this race in under 30 hours. And then we all put our heads together, closed our eyes, and said a prayer to hope that we didn't ever even have to think about that. But we all went into this with the plan that we don't quit no matter what. We finish this race.
If you make up your mind, you can take it. I'm never complacent. I would work in a mansion or basement, yeah. There's no replacement for persistence, it's a patience, yeah. In this life, I wanna be soaring, to feel sun inside when it's pouring, and I'll fight till anxiety is foreign. I'm so sick of my mind's extortion.
Good job. I just wanted someone who would notice me.
All right. Station number 1, baby. Hey, Queen. 2 hours, 31 minutes in, 13 miles.
So my whole strategy from the start through May Queen was just not too fast. Alright, so here we are, outward bound, 23 and a half miles in, feeling good, run, all the flats, all the downhills, anything I could do to keep above pace. Power hiked the uphills, went down Powerline as good as I could without just beating up my quads. But here I am, 23 and a half miles in.
Woo! Got it! Woo! Looking good, babe! Woohoo!
Okay, after being re-energized at Outward Bound, seeing my family, hugging their necks, knowing I got 12 miles till I see them again at Twin Lakes. So fueled up, have one aid station in between at Half Pipe where I get a little refresher and fill my bottles up and get ready. But feeling good. Legs a little tired, but kind of getting into a good pace, and I know I have the prettiest part of the course coming up.
28 and a half miles in 6 hours. Staying an hour ahead of the cutoffs. Next stop is Half Pipe in 2 miles. All right, 37 miles in, 1 mile from Twin Lakes, hour ahead of cutoff. Change shoes there and climb Hope Pass. Right now I'm at 8 hours. Stay tuned.
Way to go, Scotty! Woo!
Okay, coming into Twin Lakes, great to see the family refuel. They give me a lot of energy at this aid station, just with their encouragement and everything else. So, I had a plan. Listen to headphones on the way up Hope Pass. Don't stop at Winfield. Just go straight in, fill up my bottle, turn around, and go right back out. That was my strategy. I also had one more part of my strategy that might not have been the safest part, and we'll get to that in a minute.
$40 miles in. That's Hope Pass. That's next. Hope Pass. 44 miles. You gotta go down, come right back up. Winfield, halfway, 50 miles, made it 12:50. Let's go.
So right here you can see Winfield. This is the turnaround point at 50 miles. I had a strategy. I was not going to stop. If you look at this tent, it's full of people sitting down. I was not going to let that mess up my race. So I filled up my bottle and left immediately, going back up Hope Pass.
Aspen Grove. All right. Mile 53:28. Hanging in there. And about another quarter mile, it'll start the big climb. The hardest part of this course is only 2.5 miles, but it's almost straight up. And I'm fixing to start it. So I'm gonna put my earbuds in, turn the music up loud, and I'm gonna charge it. See you after. Mile 56, top of Hope Pass. It's all downhill from
Okay, as it's starting to get dark, this is a list of every bib number of everyone that's quit so far. A little scary to look at. But as coming down Hope Pass, I had this strategy. My strategy was I was not going to wear a headlamp. And that would make me run hard enough to where I got down before it got too dark. But let me just tell you, that is a dumb strategy. Because I ran down in the pitch dark down Hope Pass. But I made it and was still an hour ahead of the cutoff. And I was sure ready to see Chris and pick.
We started the morning, we got up at 3 o'clock. Scotty had to start the race at 4. And I was there to crew him originally, not pace him. So Janeth and me and Presley, I mean, we're on the crew, so we're trying to hydrate him, do all this. So he starts the race, I head to the first aid station. We did that all day long. The last one before he left me was Twin Lakes. So we got done there, he's running another 8 or 9 hours. We go back, I take a nap, go back to Twin Lakes, and I'm feeling great. And then it's getting dark, and fixing to run 26 miles with him. And I didn't have a jacket. I was in a pair of shorts, a pair of shoes I just bought, and it just soaked in on me at Twin Lakes, like, this is getting real, this is fixing to happen. So my whole thought process at that point was, he's already run 60 miles, he's got to run 100, and he can't fail on my watch. So whatever happens, I've got to get him from point A to point B, or it's on me.
We get close.
All right, love you. Bye. Good job. Good job. Woo!
Well, we leave Twin Lakes. Scotty's on fire, almost like challenging me a little bit. He said, we're behind the time, we've got to meet. We got to climb ahead of us. We're gonna have to bust ass. We got to make up some time. I was like, all right, I'm down. He goes, we got to climb the mountain for about a mile, and then it's going to level off, and we're going to be good for a while. The mile was about 3.5, and about, I'm going to say a mile and a half in, he turned around and looked at me and said, slow down, you got 25 more miles of this. So we keep running. He gets delirious. We hit another aid station, get him a cup of coffee, get him out. Guys kicking us out of the aid station, so there's no chance of anybody quitting.
So we're leaving half pipe aid station, and I was in pretty bad shape then. Medical was trying to take a look at me. Chris and I just kept telling him, I'm fine, I'm good, you know, and kept going. So drank a lukewarm cup of coffee, and it's like it just brought me back, got me some energy. Also, I mean, it's pretty much downhill from half pipe all the way to outward bound aid station. So I knew let's get going, you know. So Chris and I got a really good pace going down this Jeep road, hit the pavement, ran the entire pavement, and then when we hit the pasture going into outward bound, it's about 1 mile. I looked over at Chris, I said, we're gonna run this whole pasture. So we had headlamps and one flashlight and just ran as fast as we could, trying to step in any holes. Did really good going across there. And right before we got to outward bound aid station, I told Chris we need to get some calories in. We need to sit down, get calories in, and just know we're fixing to have the toughest part of this race. Going up Powerline at mile 80 is going to be the toughest thing I've ever done. So we just got our mind wrapped around what that was going to be. Janeth and Presley got us fueled up, and Boone, and it was time for the big climb.
Keep running, keep running. We're about 18 miles into this thing. We hit Powerline, which is a 4-mile climb up a mountain, and it was straight up.
Man, what a mountain.
Didn't he ever?
So we hit Powerline, and we're both smoked. We're 18 miles into my 26. He's, 78 into his 100. We're going straight up this mountain, and I knew if I didn't stay ahead of him that he was going to get behind. So I just hit a trot out in front of him, just antagonizing him, encouraging him to stay with me. We finally get to the top of this thing, head back down. Seemed easier then we hit the last 2 miles, and we're literally running through the forest, Hansel and Gretel, just over rocks, creeks, everything. Hardest 2 miles I've ever run, and he was absolutely smoked. I mean, just going as fast as he could, trying to get there over the time. So we ran from 9:30 at night till 5 in the morning, up and down this treacherous mountain. We were right on time, not any time to spare. And I was exhausted. Scotty was exhausted, and I just told Presley, I said, you got to keep him moving as fast as you can. You got to keep him going, or he's not going to make it. He had 4 hours to go the last 13 miles, which seems like a lot of time unless you've already ran, 87 miles. So I just told her, I said, you got to keep him going as absolutely as fast as you can.
Little tip to finishing the Leadville 100 is promise your 13-year-old daughter that you'll meet her at mile 87 and finish with her. If you do that, I'll promise you'll be there.
So we left May Queen with 13 miles left to go, and we were passing a couple people, like going at a pretty good pace. And I get at the very front, in front of my dad, and I am just pushing him as hard as he will go. I keep pushing him and telling him that we need to go faster. And at one point, he was just like, stop, we've got to go slower. So we slowed down our pace a little bit, and we were kind of just cruising through the mountains. We were going pretty fast for like what he had just ran. And then we get to a point, and there's like very steep hills left.
We are at the finish line waiting on Scotty and Presley, and we're tracking them with our phones. Boone and I decided to start walking backwards to meet with them so that we could walk the finish line with them. We walked back about 2 miles, and we needed to warn them that there were 2 pretty good climbs that he would have to endure.
She called me, said she found him. He had about an hour left, and he was a ways away from the finish line. And I told her, I said, well, kiss him on the cheek and kick him in the ass, or he's not going to make it. So I'm sitting there waiting. They come up the road. He hit the finish line with about 15 minutes to spare of 30 hours, 100 miles. People are falling down, crying, hugging. I mean, they just put themselves through the most grueling thing you could submit yourself to, and the euphoria that they finished, and the agony that some people that didn't. But it was pretty emotional. It's pretty amazing.
I was looking for y'all to be pretty close so y'all could get to the finish line in time.
So I remember I was home because I had volleyball games the day he went to run at Leadville, and I remember right as he was finishing the race, my mom FaceTimed me and she was telling me what was happening, and I just remember him walking down to the finish line, about to be finished, and I remembered how excited I was because, I mean, I was at home and I was just getting texts and updates and calls all day, always wondering what was happening, and I just remember being so excited when I found out that he finished and that he was on his way.
When Scotty told me he was going to do the Leadville 100, I thought he was crazy. He started training, COVID hit, so not only did he train for 1 year, but 2 years for this race. Took a lot of dedication. I'm so proud of him. The fact that he took his body to the limits, mentally and physically, to complete 100 miles is a task that few people in this world can even think about, not to mention actually accomplish. I'm so proud of him. I was blessed to be there with him and see him at the aid stations and finish that race. Watching Chris run with him, seeing our daughter Presley finish with him, FaceTiming Hartley, showing her the finish line, walking side by side with Boone. It was just something very special, and super proud of him for doing it.
After finishing the Leadville 100, I thought about a few things that I learned, and there's 3 things. 1, it takes a tribe. I mean, it took Chris, Presley, Janeth, Boone, Hartley, my whole support system at home to help me cross that finish line. The second thing is that if you decide that you're not going to quit something before you start, you got a pretty good chance of finishing. And then the third thing is that I wanted to find something up in those mountains. And I felt like when I was in pain, going over Hope Pass and the suffering was, felt like I was pretty close to God and had some great conversations with him. So thanks for being a part of my journey, and this is the 2021 Leadville 100 Drive.